All right, and I think that we are live. Good evening, everyone. Happy March 8th, Women's Day. I believe Women's Day was originally created by the Eastern European countries, Russia and whatnot, in order to celebrate women because they had done away with all the Christian holidays because they were an atheist nation. Russia and the Soviet Union and all those nations, they had embraced atheism and they had removed all the other religious holidays, so they needed to put in their own secular ones, and so Women's Day was part of that. I believe that's true. Is that correct, Valeria?
Well, I think it was two women from USSR who kind of invented this
Oh, is that true?
holiday.
So it was women who invented it.
Two, yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we can embrace Women's Day, despite that it's a heathens atheistic holiday, because we like the women in our lives. And Valeria is slightly annoyed with me today because I forgot to get her flowers.
You didn't forget. You were busy.
I did forget. I took the day off yesterday, and I am very how do I explain this? I'm very aggressive with my days off. I do not take days off lightly. I when I take a day off, I legit take a day off. I do not do any work. In fact, I do everything I can to avoid thinking about work, because the only reason I ever take a day off is so that I can purge my being of everything work related, because I am, you don't want to become burnt out, right? This job can burn you out very easily. So I have a method to avoid doing that, which is that every maybe 2 weeks or maybe once a month, something like that, I will take a day off and I will very aggressively do nothing. And so I forgot to get Valeria's flowers, which I had intended on doing. In fact, I mentioned it yesterday that I was going to do it, and then I stupidly forgot. But anyway, this is the beautiful wife, Valeria. Her lighting is way better than mine today. I'm like way overly bright.
Yeah.
You might want to fix my... Well, it is what it is.
Okay.
Let's just deal with it. Okay. What else were we going to say? Anything
Well,
anything
I
else?
think, did you do intro?
Oh, I did not do the... All right, everybody, you ready? Ready for the intro? All right, let's do it. And now it's time for the intro. Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
And there you go. There's our intro. I don't know what you call it. Bumper, something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to be more professional, but unfortunately it's not happening. we are still the least professional show on YouTube, and I proudly hold up that mantle. Okay, so why don't we just get into it? Let's see here. Yeah. Why don't we just get into it here? What is the first story?
Well, the first story is just two words. Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle. Yes, that's the big story of the day. And I'm going to say this, I'm actually going to repost tonight. I was going to post my Joe Rogan analysis of the Joe Rogan / Tim Pool / Jack Dorsey Twitter video thing. I've posted two of these analyses. If you haven't seen them on YouTube, they're really quite good. The comments are pretty positive. But I watched this video, this Joe Rogan video that he did with Jack Dorsey a little over a year and a half ago maybe. And I realized that we have so much more context with which to view this interview now, a year and a half later, to look back and to analyze everything that was said by both Jack Dorsey and especially his censorship czar, which is what my name for her, Vijaya. her actual name is I think it's, what is it? It's
Vijay.
Vijaya is how she pronounces it. But phonetic, I couldn't find out how she pronounced it, so I kept pronouncing it Vijaya. And as I'm watching the video and I'm taking notes and I'm writing the script for it, I just got more and more angry with her for all of the very obvious lies she was telling. So throughout the video, I very aggressively call her Vijaya, which which kind of sounds like part of the female anatomy. And that had actually occurred to me, but it hadn't bothered me enough to go back and try to figure out what, if there was some kind of alternative way to pronounce her name. So I just kept, every time I would do a bit, I would be like, tell us more lies, Vagina. I was like so angry with her. And people were like, every time you say Vagina, it sounds like you're screaming a swear word at her, calling her something, part of the female anatomy. But anyway, so I did this 3 video segment about how biased Twitter is, and the third segment was going to come out tomorrow morning. But because of this Meghan Markle interview and because it was such a big deal, I feel like people should get a little bit more context around who Meghan Markle is, how she fits in with the royal family, the whole history of that. So I'm in fact going to repost my previous video on Meghan Markle tonight. So if you guys want to see that tomorrow morning, I think it's in a way, I'm kind of exploiting the fact that this is popular right now in the news, but this is what you do, right? If something's popular, you put something out for people who want to see it, because I do think the video that I produced is quite good on Meghan Markle, and it didn't do very well. It got very low numbers. So I feel like I put this out, and hopefully it'll do better. I don't think a lot of people actually saw it the first time I posted it. But anyway, let's have a look here at this article by the Federalist, because Meghan Markle did this interview with Oprah, and I didn't watch it, but my brother did because his wife did, and he wrote me and he said, "Chris, you got to watch this interview. It's anything that you could have imagined. It's 1,000 times worse." And everybody's talking about this interview. I still haven't seen it, but Valeria watched it, and so we're going to get her take on it in 1 second. First, I'm going to read a little bit of this from the Federalist, their take, which I think is probably pretty good. Says Meghan Markle wants to be a victim because our culture rewards it. And this is exactly a point that I made a couple of days ago, I think, either on this show or maybe in a video that I did for Mr. Reagan. I can't remember, but I made this whole point about how... Oh, no, it was a video I made for Mr. Reagan about how it was called The Joy of Blackface. If you haven't seen it, it's one of my most popular videos recently, mainly because I think some leftists are getting wind of it and they're complaining about it. So it's got like over 200,000 views now. It's doing pretty well for me. But I made a video about how if being black in America is such a curse and being white is such a benefit, then why are so many white people pretending to be black in America right now? You've got all these people trying to be black, trying to be Hispanic, even like Kamala Harris, who's Indian, culturally Indian. Her mother's Indian. Her father's Jamaican. She's trying to make this association with black Americans like she's a black American. She's not black. I mean, she's black in the sense that she has some African ancestry. But she didn't grow up like in Compton. She grew up, she was born and raised in LA for the first few years of her life, but she went to high school in, I think, Montreal, Canada. She's as white as I am culturally. But she pretends to have this connection to the black community, which I really don't think is legitimate at all. But she does that because it pays to be black in America, right? It pays to be not just black, but a black victim. If you're black like our friend Errol, right? Errol Weber or Major Williams. If you're black and you don't pretend to be a victim, then it's a lot different than if you're black in America and you go around saying, "Oh, I'm so oppressed because of my blackness," right? You can get a lot of mileage out of that on the left. Obviously, with conservatives, we kind of laugh at you and scoff at you. But on the left, they actually do reward you for being a black victim or saying you're a black victim. And Meghan Markle has obviously figured this out. And so now she's doing it. I think she's always done it, if I'm honest. But let's have a look here. Meghan Markle wants to be a victim because our culture rewards it. On this episode of the Federalist Radio Hour, Federalist staff editor Madeline Osborne joins culture editor Emily Jahinsky. Sorry, Emily, I don't know how to pronounce your name there. To break down Oprah's interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and the allure of the royal family to Americans. They need a way to shut the door on their life in the United Kingdom, and they kind of needed the clashing. They needed the excuse. They needed it to be big, and they needed to be the victims. Of course, Osborne said. I don't want to say everything that Meghan said in about her mental health or the things that they said about her baby. I don't want to say all that was a lie, but I do think it is helping them to shut the door on their lives there and to rebrand themselves in the USA. This is kind of somewhat similar to, and if you want to watch this on the Federalist, it's probably a good listen. I didn't actually listen to the podcast, but I will say this is similar to what I was talking about in my Meghan Markle video that I'm going to put up again tomorrow morning, which you can watch. It's a lot of it is about how she pretends to be some kind of a victim, and she is a princess. She's got a life that so many women around the world would just be desperate to have. But because she's been privileged since she's a little child, she's been an actress, right? She's been in commercials and TV shows and stuff. She's always been treated like a beautiful young woman. She's got this, this look, which we used to call ethnically ambiguous, which was very popular in Hollywood at the time she was coming up. And, now I suppose she would just call herself black because ethnically ambiguous doesn't have as much cachet anymore. So now we have this this girl who grew up in Hollywood royalty, growing up with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, being treated like a princess. Now you're right there. I told you got to keep it in line with the leg. Now she's got to deal with being a good one. That's great. That's fantastic. Shall we watch Valeria struggle with the microphone? This is quite fun. All right, I'll switch back while she tries to figure that out. But now she's got to be a princess with responsibility. If you're a Hollywood princess, you have no responsibilities. There are no consequences to being bratty on set or being a little bit late for something. None of that matters. But if you're okay, is this a complete disaster?
Yes.
Do I have to come over and fix it? All right, Valeria's. One moment, please.
I don't know how that happened.
So we got over. There you go. Now talk into the camera. So Valeria, well, you can't actually because you don't have a microphone now.
I don't think anybody can do it.
Well,
Can you even fix it?
yeah, I can fix it, but it's gonna take some work.
1 minute, guys. 1 minute.
This has happened before. I need a fork. To fix it.
I mean, I can talk like this. It's fine. I can just hold it.
Yeah, you can just hold it the whole time.
Yeah, I can hold it. It's fine.
Fix it. Just give me. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is once again the least professional show on YouTube. I blame my wife. She broke this off once before. I fixed it. Now she's broken it off again. Fixing it again. It's all right. It's just, this is a piece of plastic, so. Oh my goodness. Can we even get it to work here? Let's see. There we go. All right. Okay, try not to destroy it this time, please. Okay, I think we got it, folks. I think we've got it. All right. All right.
Okay, I'm just not gonna touch it.
Do you need it lowered?
I don't want to touch it.
You can lower it. You should be able to lower it. You gotta unscrew that big one, and then pull it down a little bit, and then screw it back tight
Can I
again.
just do like this?
There you go. All
Okay.
right.
Good.
Sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. Now you get see a little bit of why our show is the worst show on YouTube. All right, so now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Valeria,
Yes.
you watched this Meghan Markle interview. What did you think?
Well, I understand why she did it.
Well, she did the interview.
Yeah. Make money, even though in the beginning of the show they said, I didn't get paid for it. There is no limit of questions. I'm sure somehow there was a rumors about $9 million, but not specifically for the interview. Maybe for like, I don't know, using her name or something. I don't know, but I don't believe that she didn't get paid first.
Or even if she's not getting paid, it keeps them in the news. It raises their profile.
That's her goal. Even though she said, "Oh, we want privacy, we want like quiet normal life," and
Yeah, if
now
you
you're doing
want
this.
privacy, you don't go on Oprah.
Yeah, she's doing everything the opposite. But I don't see why Harry did this. Harry, that's how.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah.
Harry. Sorry, Harry, for pronouncing your name wrong.
I know he does watch this.
Okay,
Thumbs up, Harry.
because what he said, he completely destroyed his relationship with his family.
Do you think so? What did he say specifically that was really egregious?
He wasn't really clear when he was answering questions. I mean, Oprah is great questions. Meghan Markle was also like straight answering, but Harry, he wasn't even prepared.
Right, because
I mean-
Meghan Markle is a trained actress. She's been acting since she was
Yeah,
a child. She knows how to
and-
deal with press.
So,
You'd think that he would too, though, since he grew up with media. But he doesn't do media junkets quite in the same way that an actress does, right? So if you're an actor in Hollywood, you go to these media junkets where you get 30 reporters asking actors questions, and the actors are just sitting there with the posters behind them, and then you get reporter after reporter coming in and asking various questions, and they really get trained to deal with reporters and talk to reporters. And
I mean, Harry was a privilege that Oprah called him privilege because he's a prince. He grew
Yeah.
up in the palace.
yeah,
Wasn't he like trained to behave and talk and a good education?
sure, probably not quite with the same emphasis as his brother.
No, but he said stuff like he was trapped, but he didn't know that he was trapped, but he was trapped.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Megan somehow rescued him. Okay, fine, maybe that's true. And he also said about Diana that family didn't like her, like
Yeah.
something about.
This reminds me a lot of women who will accuse someone of sexual harassment many years later, and they'll say, "At the time, I thought it was so funny, and I just thought he was so charming and such a gentleman, and I thought we were flirting and everything was great. It wasn't until later when my friends told me that this was sexual harassment that I realized actually I was in a terrible situation." It's like, no, you weren't. No, you weren't. You were just flirting with your boss, and it was fun, and everybody's having a good time. And now some annoying feminist has told you that you need to be offended, and now you're offended, right? Or like, I grew up with one of my good friends was black, right? And I've never had an issue with it, but I could imagine. Oh no, there was another girl. Actually, there was a girl that I was also friends with who was black, and later on she did say something that I said was racist. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that I'm not a racist. You're like one of my best friends. What are you talking about? And she's like, well, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she made it clear that what you said was racist. I'm like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We're friends. We're joking around about stuff. You can say stuff amongst friends that maybe you can't say, among strangers because they might take it the wrong way or something like that. Specifically because your friends should know how to take it. But you get these people who come in and they'll explain to you, oh, actually, your life was really bad because X, Y, and Z, but you may not have realized because when you were in it, you didn't have the perspective. But that's how you F with people's heads, right? That's how you mess with people's minds. You twist them against other people that they should love or care about, and they make them. It's called gaslighting, right? It's like, don't believe your actual experiences. Believe what I'm telling you your experiences were, right? That's what gaslighting is. And so I think people have been gaslighting Harry and telling him that his life was so terrible when in fact, Harry, go live in the Appalachian Mountains for a while with some poor, meth head white people, right? Everybody always says, oh, black people are poor, black people are poor. A lot of white people are poor too, all right? Go live with some poor white folks in the mountains in America for a week, come back and tell me that you were trapped. I was trapped. I was trapped with my billions of dollars. Anyway,
And
sorry.
Megan also said she was somehow trapped,
Uh-huh.
and she was thinking about suicide and stuff, which is completely BS. Okay. And she also said that she was trapped. They didn't have her too much to do because she was unexperienced.
Yeah.
And also they like talked about COVID and stuff. And
What do you mean? Like she didn't have as many responsibilities as,
yeah,
say,
because they didn't like, she didn't know anything.
Kate Middleton. Kate Middleton would have been doing more stuff than she did.
Yeah.
So she's complaining that she was trapped and given less responsibilities.
Yeah, and while COVID, we were trapped in a tiny apartments, and she was trapped in a huge palace with gardens, and
Oh, no. She was
Was it-
trapped in many palaces. They
Was
have
it-
many palaces. They don't just have one.
so hard.
They could have gone to any of their many palaces.
Yeah, but it sounded
With hundreds of rooms.
It sounded her they locked her in one tiny room.
Did they?
It sounded like it.
I highly doubt that she was actually physically trapped in one tiny room. I really highly doubt that. She probably could have gone to a variety of different places. You trying to sneeze? You want me to
No.
switch the camera to me so that you can blow your nose or something?
No, it's fine.
All right, we'll switch it back to your beautiful face. And she said that basically that the royal family was racist against her.
They said that the royal family was racist against the child that she was carrying
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
Because they were
Archie, right?
discussing his skin tone
Right.
potential, because they didn't
Yeah.
know how dark is he gonna be, I guess.
Yeah. But did you notice that they didn't actually say specifically what was said about the kid's skin tone?
Yeah,
It
and-
might have been just basically like, I wonder if he's going to come out with a tan.
Well, first,
Or something like that.
Oprah asked this question many times. In the beginning was just Megan.
Yeah.
Where are you going? I can't talk when you're not looking at me. Yes.
Really?
I'm reading comments. And you're a professional and I'm
I'm
not.
listening. I'm just changing the brightness.
So,
little better.
and Oprah asked this question couple at least like 2 times. First with Megan in the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And when Harry sit down and start talking, she also asked him, and he just said, I'm not gonna answer this. It's like too personal or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't say anything. But I mean, I don't think, maybe it happened, but I don't think, I mean, royal family, they let her in.
Yeah. They welcomed her
They
as...
were welcome. Yeah, she said they were nice. They were welcome.
I've never heard her say anything about them talking about race ever until this
And it's
particular
like
interview.
21st century, your guys. How can you discuss
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
child's
Had
skin tone?
had the Queen told Harry, I don't think you should bring, a black American woman into the family. Okay, maybe then she would have some kind of basis for what she's saying. But that was never said. Right? It was understood. I assume that it was understood to some degree that once Harry married this half black girl that he would have a quarter black child. I don't think that like was something that they were like, oh, you know what I just thought of? This child is going to be partly black. Good Lord. We can't have that.
They said they on the show that they're having a girl. So
they're having
gonna
another
be-
child. Okay.
She's pregnant,
She's pregnant. Okay, yeah.
and she's gonna deliver a baby in summertime, I think.
I thought she had just had that COVID-15. It's a joke. Sorry.
And now Palace will talk. Oh, what about this girl's skin tone?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually benefits them to create controversy. It benefits them to create some kind of, news, because guess who's talking about it?
Everyone.
Toxic masculinity. Even we're
Everyone is
talking about it.
this.
We're talking-
Everyone.
yeah. All right, well, let's move on because I got a whole video about Meghan Markle if you want to catch up on that.
Yeah, we just spent 30 minutes on Meghan Markle.
Yeah, that's... I blame you for that. I don't know why, but it's your fault. Because you like that stuff. I don't really keep up with it, except for the video that I made about it. So let's move on to the next story, shall we?
Okay.
What do we got?
Urban Dictionary bans blue Anon. Anon?
Blue and on.
Blue Anon. I
Blue
messed
and
it
on.
up.
You messed it up.
You
She
taught
works,
me. You taught me how to pronounce
you worked
it.
so hard on it before
I
the
forgot,
show.
and I forgot.
All right, well, let's have a look at this. I love this story. I love Blue and On. In fact, I love Blue and On. I love the term so much. I'm actually going to do a full video on the concept of Blue and On for Mr. Reagan. I've written it in my notes. It's on the list. And this is the first I'd heard of it. When the person who collates these news stories sent me this headline, I was like, Blue and On, what's that? So Blue and On is a term that's being used mainly on Twitter to talk about how leftists are obsessed with conspiracy theories way more than we are on the right? So we have like QAnon, which, by the way, I've always suspected that a lot of the QAnon stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it is like misinformation or disinformation that's being spread by Democrats, right? So a lot of the Republicans were saying, they found us, Valeria. They've got us. A lot of Republicans who believed the QAnon stuff were saying, "Oh, look, Trump's doing this for this reason or that reason because of the pedophile ring and all this kind of stuff." I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't go down the rabbit hole ever with QAnon, so I'm not as privy with it as I should be. But a lot of people that I knew that were hardcore Q people were saying, "Oh no, it's the reason he's doing it is because of this," and there was all these things that I didn't really understand or believe for a second, but people really believed it. And I think that at least some of that stuff, once leftists figured out that some people on the right believed in this Q stuff, I think they were pumping out really weird stuff that was totally false to try to take people off of the focus. And at one point I almost made a video about how we need to stop focusing on this QAnon crap because we need to focus what the real issues are. I mean, I had those conversations privately with like Sebastian Gorka and people like that, but I never actually talked about it on my channel. And some of you are probably Q people. Some of you probably are sitting there going, "But Chris, you're wrong. This and this and this are true." Like, I'm not saying every single thing that Q people believe is false. I think probably most of the stuff Q people think is true. But if you are privy to, if you do have a tendency to believe this anonymous Q person, then you are priming yourself to be lied to, right? You're putting yourself in a position where you're going to start getting rumors sent through the same channels that you got the other Q stuff, this whisper here, this whisper there, this, and then some of that stuff is going to be started by leftists who realize they can spread disinformation that way. Naturally, that's going to happen. So I do think some of the Q stuff was originated by leftists trying to spread disinformation in conservative circles. That's my thought, and I really do believe that. But anyway, let's move on to Blueanon, which is far worse than QAnon. And the reason is because QAnon really was believed by, a pretty significant but relatively small fringe of the Republican Party amongst conservatives. Q isn't like, the Q army, I wouldn't say is a hugely significant portion of it's a significant group. It's a significant number of people, but it's not like a huge number of conservatives. It's still a fringe group, I would say. So most of the conservatives, they don't believe in most of the QAnon conspiracy stuff. But the problem with the Blueanon phenomenon, with people like Rachel Maddow spreading disinformation about the Russian connection and all that kind of nonsense, is that these are mainstream views of Democrats. Blueanon conspiracy theory stuff is not fringe beliefs by crazy radical left Democrats. This is stuff that's believed by almost all Democrats. That's why I think it's far more egregious. Let's have a look here. The Urban Dictionary, which allows users to submit virtually any phrase with any definition has removed a reference to Blue Anon, a new phrase mocking leftists for their belief in what right-wing conspiracy theories. That's actually misstated. He means conspiracy theories involving conservatives, basically. Conspiracy theories such as the Russia hoax, the Jussie Smollett hoax, Ukraine hoax, Covington Kids hoax, and the Brett Kavanaugh hoax. The move comes just 24 hours after journalist Jack Posobiec. I've read his name so many times on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Sorry, Jack. If you see this video, I am so sorry. All right. The move comes just 24 hours after journalist Jack Posobiec pointed out the Blue Anon entry to his more than 1 million Twitter followers. And the entry says, Blue Anon, a loosely organized network of Democrat voters, politicians, and media personalities who spread left-wing conspiracy theories. There we go. That's better. Such as the Russia hoax, Jussie Smollett hoax, Ukraine hoax, Covington Kids hoax, and Brett Kavanaugh hoax. Blue Anon adherents fervently believe that right-wing extremists are going to storm Capitol Hill any day now and remove lawmakers from office, and it goes on from there. Let's see here. Hence the need for the deployment of thousands of National Guard stationed at the U.S. Capitol is what it says. So then he posts another tweet which says, I've never heard of a word being banned from Urban Dictionary before, and yet they banned Blue Anon, right? And so you can say, sorry, we couldn't find Blue Anon. Which he's right. I've never heard of that. That's pretty funny. The Post Millennial wrote about this. They said that the definition of Blue Anon is Okay, we already read that. Yeah, we already read that. Okay. Kurt Schlichter, I guess.
No idea.
Writes, Blue Anon exists, Q does not. I love that. Yeah, that's true. And as journalist Ian Miles Chong notes, I also follow him, and he posts a lot. That guy posts more than anybody else I know on Twitter. Notes, as did we while researching for this report. Sorry, as journalist Ian Miles Chong notes, as did we while researching this report, Google appears to be censoring searches for Blue Anon. Oh, really? I didn't even read that far down the article. I didn't even know that until this very moment. So if you write Blue Anon into Google, Google's censoring that particular phrase. You can't find stuff on it. It's unbelievable. Let's see here. People are writing me on Signal. Don't do that while I'm working, because then it puts up that little thing at the bottom. It's frustrating. I can't get rid of it without opening your... Anyway, let's see here. Google censored searches for Blue Anon. Okay, quite a difference between searching for Google and DuckDuckGo for Blue Anon. Okay, so DuckDuckGo is not... let's actually look at that. I don't know this guy, Rye Libertarian, but let's look at the image that you've posted. Okay, so if you look at Google, it's snowboarding stuff. That's pretty funny. You can't find anything on the Blue Anon as we were talking about it, but if you go to DuckDuckGo, there you go. The new conspiracy theory group called Blue Anon. So you get articles, you get all kinds of stuff. Daily Handle, never heard of that site. Red State, Post Millennial. Oh, and this was maybe back when it was still in the Urban Dictionary, perhaps. I don't know. But anyway, that's pretty cool. That's pretty funny. I love this story. And this guy wrote all about it, and he wrote some interesting stuff. It's a good story to read here on what is this? Zero Hedge, or I guess Post Millennial wrote about it. It's a good story. But what I really love is I love that we finally have a term for all these conspiracy theories and the movement to, because we just used to call it fake news, and fake news was such a loose term, and it was something that they could deny, right? Like they could say, like, oh no, this isn't fake news. We're not lying to you. We're
Anon.
Yeah, well, now we can call it Blue Anon, but I think for a long time, people were, the left could basically say, like, oh, we may have got a story wrong, but our intentions are noble. We're actually trying to get you the real news. It's the Q people. It's the people on the right. It's it's Fox News. These are the people that are telling you lies. We're not lying to you. We may get some stories wrong, but we're trying to tell you the truth because we sound like real journalists. And until now, we didn't really have a good way of... What are you looking at? It's not nice when people aren't looking at you when you're talking, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so but now with this term blue anon, we can point to the left and say, look, there is this phenomenon where they are distributing and popularizing these conspiracy theories, and they're doing it in such a way that it has become a kind of mainstream thing for them. Like it's a typical thing. We can list them and we can talk about it as a thing. And I'm definitely doing a video on this. I love that somebody came up with the term blue anon. I think it's fantastic, and I think that this should become like a staple thing that we talk about all the time. Any thoughts, darling?
No.
If you listen to me even for a second about that, I'm
I
not
just
sure.
when I hear Anon,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about something vulgar, so
Oh, because she was pronouncing it. She was pronouncing
don't
it
say that.
Blue Anon. She's like, Blue Anon. Sounds a little bit like Blue Anal. I'm like, Valeria, that is disturbing. That is horrible. And I shunned her for this very unladylike joke. And I may have laughed. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next one, darling.
Okay. California bill to ban boys and girls toy sections in department stores.
Yes, this is a crazy story. So, let's see here. This actually infuriated me because so they basically are trying to say here, let's just read a little bit of it. A bill introduced to the California legislature would require large department stores to stop divvying up toys and childcare items into boys and girls sections. No more pink and blue. In the state of California, we hope to inspire, for example, more girls to get into science and engineering and mathematics. I really want girls to be scientists, even if they don't want to. We want to ensure that these periodic tables and dinosaurs are not in the boys section, said Assemblyman Evan Lowe D. Campbell, Democrat. I don't know what Campbell means. Maybe it's from a particular area of California. I don't know. We just want to let kids be kids. That's what we just want kids to be kids. We don't want them to be boy kids or girl kids. We just want them to be kids. Lowe, I don't know what that means. Lowe, I guess, is the last name of this person. Yeah, Evan Lowe. Lowe, chairman of the legislative LGBT caucus, of course he is, was a co-author of the measure with Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia, who spells her name wrong, Democrat from Bell Gardens. Okay, so I guess Campbell is a region somewhere. Leader of the legislative women's caucus. The bill introduced February 18th is in committee. Blah, 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 blah. All that kind of crap. Playtime is fun, but it's also developing a skill set, she said. It's about ideas being creative. We want to make sure we're not limiting kids' creativity. Okay, this is something that bugs the hell out of me, and I'll tell you what. For all of my life, almost, since I was like a little boy, I can never remember a time in school when girls didn't do necessarily well in math or science. At least when I was growing up. So I was born in 1979. I grew up basically through the 80s and 90s. Why am I shush?
1979.
Yeah. You know what? Never mind. I'm not that old. I'm 29, ladies and gentlemen. I just look old. But anyway, so I grew up in an era in which, in fact, okay, so I had a friend who went to school for teaching, and she actually took classes about like the social stuff that had occurred in teaching since the 60s. And she told me that what she had learned in that class is that since the 60s, there was this really big push to get women into math and science. And what had inevitably happened, or incidentally happened, was that boys had been neglected. So what they had done is they had tried to restructure all of the school stuff to push girls into learning and becoming CEOs and becoming scientists and all this stuff. And a lot of boys got neglected by teachers because they were so focused on trying to teach women. And that was 100% my experience. My experience when I was a child in school was all of the teachers would take care of the girls, give them extra time, have little private one-on-one chit chats, and the boys, they would just essentially be disciplined the whole time. I had a teacher once say that you aren't allowed to have books on your desk, and I don't remember why, but for some reason I did have my books on my desk, and she took them off my desk, she threw them on the ground, and she stepped on them. Because in her mind, the boys were bad and needed to be disciplined, and the girls were good and needed to be cared for and treated well and encouraged to. Now, for you, it's going to be a bit different because you're from Russia, so your whole system would have been different.
Darling, in my school, a teacher threw a book at a boy and almost hit me, and that teacher, she taught my dad when he was in school, and she taught me.
Oh, really? She's been around
Yes.
for a long time. Well, but you did very, very well in math and science, and in fact, you got a degree in accounting.
I didn't do bad. I mean, I was good in everything, I guess, but I
But
didn't
the
really
fact that you were a
understand
girl, didn't limit you in terms of what you could learn.
because
even in
I was a
Russia.
girl and I was an ambitious girl. My teacher, my chemistry teacher, was bullying me.
Oh yeah, you had. Well, Valeria had an unusual circumstance in which she had some crazy people in her small town that thought that ambition was a bad thing because you grow up in a small town and you're gonna die in the small town.
Yeah, you're
and you
not
should-
allowed to have ambition in my village. I wouldn't call it town. Like 800 people. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, so that's a unique experience that you don't typically have in most places. But the point is that being a girl specifically, that didn't actually limit you in your ability to do well in school in
No,
particular
no.
subjects. And I've just never seen my whole life growing up, I've never seen any girl discouraged from doing anything because she's a girl, except maybe traditional female roles. So I've seen my whole life women encouraged to do everything that men do, anything they want to do. You can be whatever you want, but just don't be a housewife, right? It might not have been a direct discouragement, but they're like, women are discouraged from trying to take up like sewing or cooking or, being a housewife or just, that my whole life, that has been sidelined as sort of like not being good enough for women. Like should be CEOs, women should be, achieve all these amazing things. And if you're just a housewife, that's just not good enough, right? You're not a good feminist, basically. And I absolutely hate that.
Well, in Russia, you have to be a good housewife, a good mom, a good wife, a work.
Supermodel.
Yes, otherwise the guy will have another woman on the side. That's true. It's actually very sad, but I'm just so glad that I'm not in Russia and I'm not married Russian man. So let's move on.
Okay, you just want to move on from this. Anyway, so the point is that this that you have this bill that's going to ban boys and girls toys being put in the same shelves, right? Ban them putting on separate shelves. They have to all be put on the same shelf. But here's the thing: like, are they going to do that with clothes next? Because there are no genders. There's only, you can be a boy if you're a girl. You can be a girl if you're a boy. So we're just going to put all the clothes together. That's just going to make it take longer to find the clothes that you need. And or the cut, right, of clothes that you want. Because men don't wear the same. Like, a lot of men don't know this about fashion. I do, because I used to know a fashion designer. But the cut of your clothes, the way that the clothes are designed, is very different for men and for women, right? Women's clothes complement a woman's figure, and men's clothes complement the figure of a man. And you have to cut it in a particular way to look good on a man or to look good on a woman. And you're not going to want to pick up a T-shirt that was made for a woman if you're a guy, because it's going to look weird. And you're not going to, girls can kind of get away with men's clothes, but men can't really get away with women's clothes. I mean, it just doesn't look right. And so it's just going to take people longer to find the clothes that they need when they go to the store. I mean, it's just such a stupid thing. Like, look, if you're a boy who wants girls stuff, go to the girls section. If you're a girl who wants boys stuff, go to the boys section. Like, if I wanted, you know what's funny actually? My one of my really good friends growing up, I'm not gonna give his name because it might embarrass him. I don't think he watched this show, but his mom was a strong feminist. She was actually the head of an organization called the La Leche League, which encouraged women to breastfeed their children when they were kids. It's kind of a, I don't know if it's a good or bad organization, but it
What did they
discouraged bottle
discouraged
feeding and encouraged breastfeeding.
Encouraged.
Like more to be more natural, I guess,
Okay.
or something like that. So she had these breastfeeding posters like in her house, which as kids we were like, ooh, boobs. But also one thing that she did is she bought because she was way ahead of the curve, man. This is like early 80s.
She was anti-feminist.
No, she was a strong feminist.
So why would she encourage breastfeeding?
I don't want to digress too much into that.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the early 80s, and she was way ahead of the curve because she was buying, I'm not joking, my good friend and his siblings were also boys. She had all boys, 3 boys. She bought them all Barbies. She bought them all Barbies to play with as kids. And I mean, I didn't even understand this as a kid. I would be like, wait, your mom buys you Barbies? And he's like, I don't know. Yeah. But you know what they would do with the Barbies? You know what they would do with the Barbies? They just strip them naked and make them like make out and have sex and shit. Yeah, like that was all they. I mean, what is a little boy gonna do with a Barbie? He's gonna tear its clothes off, obviously.
That is a funny comment. Fact check: chest feeding.
Chest feeding, yeah, that's right. It's some people are calling it chest feeding because some women can breastfeed even though they're men and they don't want to be considered to have breasts or whatever. I don't know. It's the whole trans thing has just made everything crazy. But anyway, yeah, you cannot take the boy out of the boy. Like, I mean, boys are boys, girls are girls. Yeah, some boys are more effeminate, some girls are more masculine, but at the end of the day, boys are boys, girls are girls. Just like stop pretending. The whole thing about being a leftist is like living in fantasy world. You're like, "Oh, I don't like the way the world is, so let's just make something up. Let's just pretend that boys aren't actually boys, and society makes them that way. But if we give them dolls, they're going to be less. They're all going to be like better. Trust me, my friend is not like a better man for having Barbies. Trust me, he's not a bad guy, but I would say he's much more of a misogynist than I am. Yeah, and it's not because of the way he speaks to women or about women. It's he doesn't. Yeah, well, it's about his dating habits, let's just say. But the point is, giving a little boy Barbies is not going to make him a better man. Okay, it's not going to change who he is. He's going to be a guy. He's going to want to like be with girls. That's it. I mean, you could probably mess some kids up. I mean, some kids probably are definitely, you can screw up their brains. But I mean, let's just let nature take its course. Well, why do we gotta see? Their theory is that it's society that makes boys masculine, it's society that makes women feminine, and therefore these experiments have been going on forever. I mean, they've done these experiments for generations upon generations upon generations of people trying to do these experiments where they make boys girls and girls boys, and it always ends in disaster. And this idea that boys aren't born like that, like the way they are, and women are not born the way they are. It's just been disproven over and over and over again. But leftists, they don't follow the science, folks. That's the problem. They don't follow the science. They just ignore science altogether. They go, oh, well, this says that a boy's a boy. Well, that can't be right. All right, anyway, yeah, we maybe should move on. I'm taking a little too long with this. What's the next story?
We have 10 minutes left, and we still have 3 topics.
All right, well, let's go through them quick.
Okay. Pepe Le Pew gets
Yeah.
canceled from the Space Jam sequel.
Space Jam.
Jam
So I'm the problem is that today we just got so many good stories, guys. Just so many good stories.
Which I have to thank your...
Yeah, my story collator, whose name I know, Ashley.
It's okay, Ashley. He does remember my name sometimes.
It's true.
That's why he calls me darling all the time.
It's true. And Victoria, right? No, I have one of my best friends, my buddy Kurt. I forget his name all the time. I got a buddy Jeff who was one of my best friends in LA for a long time, which I haven't seen him in like a year. I should reconnect with Jeff. Anyway, I could never remember his name. I have another buddy, Adrian, that lives here in LA. Can't never remember his name. I can remember them all today for some reason. I don't know why, but usually I forget them. All right, so let's just have a look at this. This is ridiculous. Okay, Pepe Le Pew scene cut from Warner Brothers Space Jam sequel. And I've seen this on, I've seen this on Twitter a little bit going around, people laughing about this. The iconic Looney Tunes character Pepe Le Pew has been axed from the upcoming Warner Brothers theatrical sequel, Space Jam: A New Legacy, starring LeBron James. I guess it's a legacy of wokeness. Let's see here. A scene in which the cartoon character Pepe Le Pew hits a woman. Whoops, that's very different. Hits on a woman, gets a drink thrown on him, and has a restraining order filed against him, has been cut from the Space Jam sequel, according to a report by Deadline. Deadline details the purported scene as follows. Pepe was set to appear in a black and white Casablanca-like Rick's Cafe sequence. Pepe, being a bartender, starts hitting on a woman at the bar, played by... I don't know how to pronounce that name. Grishi Santo. He begins kissing her arm, which she pulls back, and then slamming Pepe into a chair next to hers, she pours her drink on Pepe and slaps him hard, sending him spinning on a stool, which is then stopped by LeBron James's hand. James and Bugs Bunny are looking for Lola, and Pepe knows her whereabouts. Pepe then tells the guys that Penelope Cat has filed a restraining order against him. I love that. James makes a remark in the script that Pepe can't grab other tunes without their consent. Oh, so it was a little learning moment. It was a little sexual harassment learning moment. This scene was supposed to be, and they've cut that out because even that is too. You can't even learn about sexual harassment anymore. But so Valeria doesn't know much about Pepe Le Pew. I had to tell her about this character last night. But what a lot of these people don't realize, I think, is that the joke about Pepe Le Pew was not just that he was a womanizer. Okay, that is his character. Okay, it's kind of a funny thing. It's a character that exists in real life. There are men like that. Just ask the people of New York. But Pepe Le Pew was funny not because he was trying to go after this girl skunk, but because he was trying to go after a girl cat who had accidentally walked under a paint bucket or something and had a white stripe painted down her back. And he thought that the cat was another skunk. He thought it was a female skunk, right? So this male skunk is going after what he thinks is a female skunk, but it's a female cat. And the female cat, obviously Pepe Le Pew, he's a skunk. He smells bad. So the cat is naturally get the hell away from me. You smell terrible, right? And Pepe Le Pew is like, oh, why? Why do you want to get away from me? You're so beautiful, and you must love me. Sorry, that accent was terrible. I can do a French accent, by the way, but that was not it. I don't know what the hell that was. It was like Dracula or something. But anyway, so Pepe Le Pew is always trying to get with this cat who he thinks is a skunk. That's why it's funny. Okay, it's because he's basically being catfished, right? It's like the first ever instance of catfishing is with a real cat. So that's why it's funny, but people aren't getting to that point because they're so focused on this idiotic, sexual harassment stuff or whatever. It's sad, I think. It's just sad. We can't even have comedy anymore. We can't have jokes even in cartoons. It's all too much. It's too evil. I don't know. It's crazy, but it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen, because they've also decided to redesign the character of Lola Bunny. Now, let me just say this. I have never seen the original Space Jam, so this was not part of my childhood, so this doesn't really ruin anything for me. But I could imagine being a kid and seeing this bunny on the left and thinking, ho, ho, ho! Bugs Bunny, I would go for her too. Good job, Bugs. You are going after an attractive female bunny. That makes total sense to me because I imagine that in the first movie that she's introduced and then Bugs Bunny is like, holy smokes, this is gorgeous female bunny. I want to get with her. This is going to be my girlfriend or my wife or whatever it is he's thinking. And she's cute. She's got her midriff showing. She's got the figure of a woman. And then you look over here on the right and it's like
gender neutral.
Yeah, it's like gender neutral though. It's like she had a breast reduction. She stopped working out. This girl Liz Katz wrote, "The pandemic hit Lola Bunny hard," which I thought was just hilarious. That's is pure genius as far as I'm concerned, in terms of comedy. But it's sad, right? You can't even have a kind of sexy cartoon character bunny for Bugs Bunny to want to be with. He's got to be with this kind of gender neutral sort of like giving a kind of smug, I don't care look. Like that's not there's nothing nice about that. That's not, nobody wants to look at that. This, lots of little boys would want to look at, because little boys like that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but it's true. Now, if we look at Slate's written this big article here about how like conservatives want you to be outraged by this. I don't care if you're outraged or not. I just don't think it's a smart thing for these people to do. But anyway, the guy who redesigned Lola writes, "The new Lola will usher in gender equality," he writes. "And her redesign will tone down her hypersexualized body." I mean, I don't think it was hypersexualized. It was certainly sexualized to some degree. Hypersexualized?
Look
I mean,
at the boob size. It's hypersexual.
yeah, yeah.
Like, look at mine.
Well, you're wearing a pretty heavy sweater. I think
That's why I'm wearing sweaters, guys.
Yeah. Okay, because she's trying to be gender neutral. Okay, Jessica Rabbit. That's more, I would say, hypersexualized, right? Lola Bunny is just ordinary sexualized. Hypersexualized, yeah. I'm not seeing nipples. I'm not seeing massive breasts. I'm not saying
I see massive breasts.
Oh, do you? You think that's massive? I'd say it's about like you. I'd say she's got about your physique, actually. If you look at other images of her, they're not quite as well. This one you can't really tell there, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, she just looks like a woman. She looks like a woman, and here, her redesign will tone down her hypersexualized body, mostly created by fan artists. Okay, the fan art might be hypersexualized. I don't know. I've definitely chanced upon some kind of like weird cartoon stuff searching the internet. I think it's hard not to run into some of that stuff, but that's possibly true. But you don't have to tone down the hypersexualized body created by fan artists. I mean, nobody's asking them to go find the most raunchiest, hypersexualized, hardcore fan art of these cartoon characters and put those in the cartoon. Nobody's asking you to do that. People just want the things to stay relatively the same and not be, neutered, essentially. They're just desexualizing everything to the point where it's not. But the thing is, these people don't care about whether something's hypersexualized or not. What they care about is whether it's gendered. That's what they really care about. So I guess the guy's name is Ramirez. He writes, "Lola's new design should match her candor and demeanor. Change is usually good," he writes. Change is usually good. Okay, one, no, that's not true. Change is usually bad, actually. But change is sometimes good. I'll give him that. Change is sometimes good. This is not one of those times. I think that having a sexy bunny for Bugs Bunny to like in the cartoon, nothing wrong with that. Changing it, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that, actually, but I do think there's something wrong with it because of the reason they're doing it. They're de-gendering everything, It's anyway. It's funny, actually, in the original cartoon, Bugs Bunny was a cross-dresser. He did often dress up like a girl bunny. Yeah. And also in the Pepe Le Pew cartoon, I want to say, there was an episode that somebody made me aware of. I hadn't seen it, but somebody in my Twitter feed told me, where Pepe Le Pew had taken a shower or something, and he was now he no longer smelled, and the cat lost her stripe, and so Pepe Le Pew was no longer attracted to her, I guess, because he realized she was a cat and she wasn't a skunk. Mm-hmm. And so the whole episode was the cat thought that Pepe Le Pew was a male cat, and the girl cat was trying to get with Pepe Le Pew the whole time. It was all reversed, which I think is great.
I lost. Okay, let's just.
The audience knows what I'm talking about. The audience knows what I'm saying. You guys know. You guys get it. All right, let's move on to the next story.
After defunding the police, New York City First Lady pleads for citizens to intervene in violent crimes as assaults spike.
Uh-oh. I've lost this one. I've lost this one. Where is it? Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay. I will switch to this, and then we'll talk about it. All right. After defunding the police, New York First Lady. So this is De Blasio's wife, who's black, and she's always been a kind of a supporter, I think, of Black Lives Matter and that kind of stuff. From what I understand, I don't really know much about De Blasio's wife, if I'm honest. It says here, the wife of Mayor Bill de Blasio wants citizens to personally, physically intervene. And actually, I don't think this is a bad thing. I think citizens should personally intervene. I think if you see some crime being committed, you know, tell the criminal to back off. And if he doesn't listen to you, knock him out. And if he's got a gun, shoot him. That's what I think. The wife of New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. But these are people who don't like the Second Amendment, want to take all your guns. But they're telling you to intervene if criminals are attacking somebody randomly in the street. Now, you got to do your duty, do your duty, and be a vigilante. But you're not allowed to have guns. Let's see here. Physically intervened to stop violent crimes 9 months after she convinced her husband to get aboard the Defund the Police movement by redirecting money from police to youth initiatives and social services. And this is the other thing that's ridiculous about it. They want to defund the police, and then they want citizen policing. But like a lot of criminals have knives and guns and stuff, and the reason that we have police is because police have body armor, guns, tasers. They can stop criminals safely, more or less. Whereas a regular citizen is probably going to get shot if they try to intervene in a. That's why most people don't. I do because I do not value my life, so I have intervened in a crime or two in my day. But yeah, it's a dangerous thing to do. Most people want to preserve their life, and they don't do that. But like, if you are going to do it, maybe carry a gun. Let's see here. Shootings in New York City doubled in 2020 and were up 75% last month compared to the year prior. Burglaries have also increased, and violent, unprovoked crimes against Asians have become endemic. As attacks on Asian American communities continue, we're asking New Yorkers to show up for their neighbors and intervene when witnessing hateful violence or harassment. I know that can be frightening when you aren't sure what to do or say, but you can learn, New York First, because that's all it takes. All it takes is standing up and saying something, and then the criminals just walk away. It's amazing. New York City's First Lady, oh gosh, I can't pronounce this, Charlene McCrae, wrote on Twitter March 6th, "Fear is a normal feeling when stepping into confrontation or standing up to somebody with a gun. But being prepared can help." And by being prepared, I think she means concealed carry. I'm pretty sure that must be it, right? That must be what she means. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, clearly the First Lady of New York, oh gosh, Charlene McCrae, is advising you all to go out and buy a gun. Everybody in New York. That's her tweet there. Now, but here's the funny thing about this. The people who are attacking these Asians are black men, are young black men. Almost all of them. Almost every single incident. There's one. So I try to look into this a little bit. If you go on to say like USA Today, they've got a story about NYPD creates Asian hate criminal task force after spike in verbal physical attacks amid pandemic. And the picture they have is, and I'm not joking, this is from a sketch comedy bit where a white woman is like disgusted because this Asian guy coughs next to her in a gym. But that's not where they couldn't find any instances of white people attacking Asians or being mean to Asians. So they got an image from a sketch comedy show from, I think, YouTube or something like that. I have to look into it, but for all I could tell was this was a sketch comedy bit. They've got the image of the white girl and the Asian and her like looking at him like, what the heck? And that is their image that they've used to talk about this. That's the image they used for this story, because they couldn't find anything real of white people being racist against Asians, because it's all black people. It's all black. I doubt that.
Chris, can you say it more louder, because like 80% people living in this building are black?
That's true. But I don't think Charlene is aware of this. I don't think she understands what's happening. I don't think. So let's see here. I looked it up in one other area, and they're talking about San Francisco area in particular here. Black and Asian unity, attacks on elders spark reckoning with racism's roots. And so in this story, they're basically talking about how there's a new problem stemming from these Asian attacks, which is that Asians are becoming more racist against black people. And this whole story tries to lay out how, despite the fact that it's pretty much only black people attacking Asians, well, Asians, they shouldn't see it that way. They shouldn't conceive of the fact that it's black people, and they should have this like love and admiration and happiness towards black people, even though it's pretty much exclusively black people going and attacking Asians in this racist way. And if you read here, it says actually, let's see. I clicked on the link. They said that in this article somewhere, it's a really long article. Okay. It says, meanwhile, violence against Asians, I'll highlight this for you. Meanwhile, violence against Asians continues across the country. Some of the suspects, Meanwhile, violence against learn to talk. Meanwhile, violence against Asians continues across the country. Some of the suspects have been black. Some of them have not. It's exhausting for Asian Americans to keep having to bear witness. It's exhausting for organizers, blah, 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 all this crap. But here's the thing. Some of them have not. But if you click on this link, it doesn't show you like statistics. It doesn't show you like any kind of I don't want to click on it because it'll actually take you to a video on Twitter of a guy pushing over this Asian woman. And he's a white guy. But it links you to this one incident of a white man pushing over an Asian woman, despite the fact that there's been dozens and dozens of black guys attacking Asians. But the one incident, if you click on it and you watch this guy push this Asian woman over, he's clearly like mental. He's clearly like a mental person. He's clearly got like a mental problem. And so they picked the one incident where there's a white guy attacking an Asian and they've said, but some of the attacks have not been from black people. Okay, all but one. Don't shush me. Don't shush. Woman, I will beat you. I will beat you.
And let it go.
That will be taken out of context at some point, I'm sure. And I will now never win any kind of an election. But that's okay. I like my job. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the last story. Anyway, so the point is, let's just say, it's hilarious to me. What's funny?
Let's move on.
But no, I do want to say it's hilarious to me that she wants people to intervene, which I think in general is a good idea. I think it's a good idea for ordinary citizens to intervene when they see a crime being committed, if they can. If it's a man, women probably shouldn't. I've seen women do it. They do a pretty good job too. But and especially if you want to intervene in crimes, carry a gun. Please carry a gun. Get a gun. Go around the subways with your gun. You got to get all the permits and everything. Make it legal. And then if you see a crime being committed, be like, hey, gentlemen, stop that. And be as cheesy and superhero-like as possible. And if they don't stop that, whip out the gun. That's vigilante justice. I'm not saying shoot them. I'm just saying let them know that you have the power to stop them. And then they will leave. Or they'll try to shoot you, one of the two. But, you got to be prepared to fight back. What?
Last story?
All right, fine. Let's move on to the next story. I like talking about these. This is some great stuff
I
here.
know, but we are running out of time.
We're running out of time, and we're scaring the neighbors, apparently. According to Valeria, the neighbors are frightened. All right, moving on.
History professor fired for posing a racist question.
This is great. So this is not a racist question. I just want to be clear. There's nothing racist about this question at all. And I'm just going to cut right to the chase here because we don't have time. But basically, there's this guy, and he used to be a New York City police officer. He served during 9/11. And he's talking about the history of America and the history of trading goods generally, right? The transatlantic trade routes. Not slave trade specifically, but the transatlantic trade routes generally. encompassing all kinds of, we're obviously talking about slavery here, but we're talking about lots of different stuff. Because most of the stuff that was traded in the various, across the Atlantic Ocean, it wasn't obviously people. Most of the stuff that was traded was sugar and spices and tobacco and whatever it was, anything, whatever, all kinds of goods, and so there were obviously slaves that also came across, and slaves that produced some of the tobacco, and slaves that produced some of the sugar, and that kind of thing. And so if you take all of that together, because a lot of people like to say that, America was built on slavery. If we didn't have slaves, then you wouldn't have had the wealth that came up in the West. But it's like, how did Europe evolve before white people were even introduced to Africans? Because there was a long period of time since a little bit after the Roman era when Europeans didn't even have slaves, right? Sometime after the Roman era, slavery died out in Europe. Actually, they weren't allowed to have slaves. You couldn't enslave another European. Funnily enough, I have an ancestry. I have some documentation from my ancestors in Germany, and it says that we had a farm, and it said we had 2 servants, and then actually says next to their names, it says not a slave next to it, not a slave.
So it was paid hired worker.
They were paid hired workers, yeah.
Were they paid $15 an hour minimum wage?
That's the next question. That's the next question.
Chris?
Were my ancestors paying their servants $15 an hour? I don't know the answer to that. My guess is that because they didn't use dollars, I'm sure it was far more than the equivalent of $15 an hour. I don't know what it would have been.
I'm joking.
The Deutschmark or something like that. I don't know what it would have been in the 1400s.
1
But
cent?
anyway. Huh?
10 cents?
No, I'm saying because it wouldn't be dollars.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think it would be Deutschmarks. I don't know what it would be, but whatever the coinage was at the time,
Okay.
I'm sure it was the equivalent of more than $15 an hour. But anyway, that was a tangent that didn't need to be gone down. But anyway, the point is that did slavery exist in Europe to some degree here or there? I think maybe, yeah. But for the most part, it had died out in Europe for a long time, and Europe still thrived. It still did very well. We had technological advancements. We had all of this. And then the slaves came along, the whole slavery system. And then we had a lot of certain raw goods that were, able to be consumed in greater quantities because of the slave labor. But actually, I read somewhere, or I watched a video or something about how slavery was actually very expensive because, like, housing and feeding all your slaves, you had to keep them to some degree healthy because they had to do hard labor, So feeding all those people and housing them and keeping them somewhat healthy was actually pretty expensive. In some instances, it would have actually been cheaper just to pay them a wage and let them go find rent and buy their own food. And so... So slavery was probably going to die out. It was headed toward dying out. And then Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, and that made it a lot more feasible to have slaves because a single slave wasn't able to produce that much cotton in the early days. But then once the cotton gin was invented, a slave could produce a lot more cotton in one day, than he used to. And so the cost of the slave was now eclipsed by the amount of money that they could make you. And so that's when the slave trade really exploded in America, is because of this cotton gin, which was invented by a black guy, which is kind of a twisted irony of history. But anyway, so this guy's talking about all that history and how it's nuanced. History is nuanced. I'm sorry. It just is. And he actually asks the question. Let me get down here to the question. He forced students, he had students formulate the pros and cons concerning the topic of not actually slavery, about trading goods in general at that time, right? All the benefits and the detriment that had occurred, this sort of negativity. The exact question, hold on, I'm trying to find the exact question here. Let's see here. I should have highlighted it. Let's see here. Okay. Well, here he writes the questions that get students to think about history from multiple perspectives and get students conversing and thinking. He says, I think it will impact the way teachers teach. They will avoid topics that might raise tough questions. Right. So that's not exactly what he asked, but it is an excellent point. Let's see here. Why can't I find this? Let's see. Okay. Here it is. The final slide of the presentation. So he's presenting. It is a presentation. He says the final slide of the presentation asked if the positive justify the negatives. Oh no, that was the slide. That was the slideshow that talked about how horrible he was. Let's see here. Well, this is a terrible presentation. I should have had this this up. But anyway, he's just basically talking about the nuances of trading in that era. I wish I had highlighted or cut out the bit that I wanted. Usually I don't have this much trouble finding things. But anyway, the point is, it's like you should definitely be able to ask questions about the benefits of trade generally, despite the fact that there may be historically some, problems, stuff that we see and we think this is bad or whatever. But this guy lost his job because he was just talking about history in a nuanced way, and he didn't simply create a lesson that said white people bad, black people good, slavery was horrible, moving on to the next thing. Like, he was actually trying to teach things as they happened, as opposed to this sort of caricature version that they want you to teach nowadays. And I think that this is just absolutely terrible. You need to be able to talk about these things in a... God, I hate the race stuff. I'm so unbelievably sick of the race stuff. Like, there's always just the assumption, always, oh, this person's a racist. Oh, this person didn't say that racism was purely evil and there was nothing. Look, I don't. This guy definitely did not defend racism in any way or slavery or anything like that. Okay, let me try to just read some of this. During the lecture, Taylor discussed the Columbian Exchange, the transfer of plants, animals, diseases, people, and culture following Christopher Columbus's voyage, as well as its positive and negative implications for the world. Positive and negative implications for the world. All that trade, right? Fire Council, I don't know what that means, F-I-R-E, so it's an acronym for something. Adam Goldstein told Campus Reform that the university never responded to the letter. Fire, I assume, is somebody who's defending this teacher. I don't know. The final slide of the presentation asked if the positives and justify the negatives. In response, an Instagram account called blah blah blah, whatever that is, something radicals, claimed that Taylor was a racist predator on campus. Okay, yeah, so that is it. This is the last slide that he provided in his thing. Do the positives justify the negatives, right? Now, he didn't say that the positives justified the negatives. He asked the question, did the positives justify the negatives? So you can't even ask now questions like that.
You can't even think questions like this.
You can't even think questions like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, he did not try to defend slavery, but I will. And here's my defense of slavery, okay? This is not a defense of specifically the transatlantic slave trade or the slavery of black Americans, black Africans in America at the time. But this is a defense of slavery generally, right? Because you had slavery since the dawn of time. Since before recorded history, we've had slavery, right? They still have slavery in Africa today, right? We think of slavery... What?
I think Russia was the best in terms of slavery because Russians enslaved Russians.
Yeah.
We were slaves.
You enslaved yourselves, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's
we don't need anyone.
Well, they did that throughout Europe. They did that everywhere. Africans do it to other Africans still to this day. Arabs do it to other Arabs. Asians do it to other Asians. But they outlawed Europeans enslaving other Europeans in the 11th century or something. I don't quite remember, but fairly early on. But the Romans obviously had slaves, the Romans. But here's the thing. So why is slavery potentially a good thing conceptually? So the reason that we think of slavery as a civil rights abuse today is because their quality of life is so high, right? It's there are very few people around the world that actually have to endure the possibility of starving to death, right? Or being killed by the elements for lack of shelter, right? This is very rare, especially in the Western world. It's even fairly rare in the third world or the developing nations. But if you go back historically, this is very common, right? It's very common to have a winter that wasn't good. A lot of the early colonists here in the United States, in this region that we now call the United States, died off early on because they had these terrible winters and they couldn't produce enough food. So here's a question, right? If you're going around as a hunter-gatherer, right, and your tribe is starting to starve, right, because we've had a sort of like we've had a very harsh winter or something like that. We're having trouble finding food. Maybe we're not very good at it. We're like a kind of a weaker tribe of people. We don't have that much going on in terms of our guys can't hunt. We keep throwing spears, but we're not good at making spears, man. They're not working, and we're kind of weak. For whatever reason, we haven't been able to get that much food. And our kids are dying, and our wives are dying, and a lot of the men are dying. Like, a lot of people are dying. Our tribe is in danger of going extinct. It might actually be a better solution to go be enslaved by the next tribe over. Now, that sounds horrible to us today. But if you're watching your child die, starve to death, and your wife starve to death, it might actually be a valid solution to go to a wealthier tribe of people who have more than you do, who are more capable of sustaining their lives and have a little bit of surplus, especially if you come in and help them work. It might actually be better for you to be a slave historically, right, than to die, right, than to starve to death and watch your family starve to death. So, look, I'm not saying that slavery is a good thing, especially in the modern world, but I'm like, historically, what I'm trying to say is, historically, there may have been instances in which this was mutually beneficial. This was not always merely one group oppressing another group. I think probably most of the time it was. I think probably most of the time it was one tribe conquers another tribe and enslaves most of their people against their will. I think that was probably most of the time true. But I think there were probably also instances where you could either face starvation and death because you're a weak group of people, or you could be enslaved by somebody. Now, how many of my ancestors were slaves? I don't know. I assume that at some point down the line, there are some people who were probably enslaved by some other people at some point, thousands of years ago. So, it's obviously not something that affects me emotionally in the same way that it affects somebody emotionally who could actually like trace his lineage back to a slave, right? Of course, people will look at that and think, oh, that's horrible. But I actually think that we've done a huge disservice in our society by romanticizing the plight of the slave. We have done this. It started with the show Roots. There was this miniseries called Roots, and they depicted slavery in the worst possible way, where it was just the absolute most atrocious thing ever. And ever since then, we've always spoken about slavery as if it was the worst possible state of human condition. And possibly sometimes it was, possibly sometimes it wasn't. It's hard to say, but there's no nuance anymore. It's black and white. This is the worst thing ever. You're an evil person if you even talk about it without saying that. And it's just silly, There are... intellectually, like if you think about this in an intellectual way, if you think about it rationally, there were certainly, benefits historically, maybe not in the days of the African slaves in America, but certainly at some points in ancient history, there may have been some benefits of slavery for the slave as well. Look, I just hate that they're so okay. So I'm taking the worst possible position, playing devil's advocate, trying, being a bit provocative here. But honestly, people shouldn't lose their jobs for just saying, did the benefits of trade outweigh the sins of those doing the trading at the time? I think that's a great question to ask. I think people should weigh those things, because that does force people to look at nuance. It does force people to look at things as they actually were. Force people to look at things, in a more realistic way, as opposed to this caricature nonsense that we always look at everything through because of movies. I mean, it really is, I think, because of movies and TV shows that we think of the world the way we do. And that is it for the stories of the day. Valeria did not talk much. She had her own segment at the beginning there with Meghan Markle.
Yes, if you would do Meghan Markle in the end, I
would-
once
you-
spent my whole energy on the first topic.
No, I
have
liked it.
nothing left right
I
here.
think the
I
people-
see like many people. Yes, guys, I do read comments. I don't look at myself. Yes, sometimes I do, of course, but mostly I'm reading your comments and people saying that I look bored or I look introvert.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
I
an
mean, I am
introvert.
introvert.
She's an introvert. She's a bit shy.
Yeah, I am. It's true, but it's just hard for me to
Yeah.
absorb so much information, and Chris talking super intellectually and smart and using smart words, and I'm just like, sometimes I'm losing.
I would say slightly above average.
No, you're smart. You're very smart.
Slightly above average.
So do we want to take some questions?
I think we should take some questions, even though we're well over time on the
We
show
are
today.
85 minutes live.
Let's
so
do
we
it. Let's
can
take
take
some
some
questions and
questions.
comments. Have you guys got anything to say about the show tonight, or have you got any questions? Valeria, how do you do your makeup?
What?
I'm not reading a question. That's just from me. That's
What
just
did you
my
say? Sorry.
Valeria, how do you do your makeup? Walk us through it.
Well, I did put some like more makeup today because my skin wasn't good this day of the month.
Her skin is perfect, ladies
So I
and
needed
gentlemen.
to
She's lying.
distract my ugliness with a little more makeup.
You guys, her standard for her skin not being perfect is so ridiculous.
I have one spot here and it's super painful.
There are some women out there who would want to punch you. Your level of what you think is not looking your best. Anyway, yeah. So she did some makeup. She did her makeup nicely today. I think it looks pretty good. Do we have any? I'm not even on. Did somebody say something?
Attaco Magnet. Chris, my wife got confused between Ben Shapiro and Tim Pool because they both wear beanies, don't they? What?
Because ben Shapiro wears his like yarmulke. That's pretty funny. Let's see. Gosh, the questions and comments are going so quick. I can't read anything. Let's see here. The Tree Climber writes, racism is overrated. Fact. I think so. I think it is overrated. I think that's great. Let's see here. There are pyramids in China and South America as well, says MK. That's true. There are pyramids. They're not quite like the Giza. It's a little bit different, but yeah, there are some kind of pyramid type things. Let's see here. DJ writes, Kate Brown got her COVID vaccine before the elderly. Kate Brown is the governor of Oregon. I actually hate talking about Kate Brown because she is so unpleasant. Kate Brown is one of the most offensive people I've ever seen speak. And also the Mayor Wheeler of Portland also. These guys are so pathetic, and I'm from Oregon, so I don't like talking about Oregon politics because it makes me depressed. Chris00NJ writes, Chris is way out of his league. Well, hold on a second. Chris from New Jersey, as I assume what your name means. I am not way out of me, and I'll tell you why. When we met, I was much skinnier and better fit. I was much more handsome. But yeah, I may be a little bit out of my league. Okay, fine. Let's see here. Oh, Kelly Higginson writes, Valeria, you are beautiful. I knew a guy named Kelly when I was a kid, but I assume this is a girl. Kelly can be either a boy's name or a girl's name. Let's see. Neil McCann says, come on, Chris, if any part of your job description includes being beaten, starved, or whipped, it ain't good. No. Look, of course I'm playing devil's advocate. Of course I'm trying to take a provocative position there. But no, I don't think that it is worse being... well, you say starved. I don't think... So that's the thing about being a slave. That's the only real benefit of being a slave, is that they want to keep you alive because they need you to work the field. So you may get, what did he say, beaten and whipped? You may get beaten and whipped, but is it better to be beaten and whipped, or is it better to starve to death? And the whole point I'm trying to make is that historically, if you were at risk of starving to death, it might actually be in your best interest to, in fact, be a slave instead, right? They did have people who would be willingly be indentured servants, which was essentially temporary slavery.
You know
So-
that you have camera on me, right?
Oh no, I didn't realize. Sorry about that. Sorry, you were talking earlier, but I want to pretend this is all coming from you, so I don't get blamed for it.
Okay. Okay. Frank, what does Valeria think of Chris not being as fit as he used to be? Well, I'm no longer afraid that some hot girl is gonna steal him from me. So
Believe
I'm
it or
kind of
not,
like,
that is
okay,
true.
finally I can relax.
It is true. I dated a lot of girls before I met Valeria, and I would always have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different girls that I was hanging out with. If I didn't have a girlfriend, if I had a girlfriend, it was just the one girl. But if I was single, I didn't have a girlfriend. I wasn't in a committed relationship. I would have
Well,
4 or 5 girls
you
around.
were like super hot, skinny, fit, but you were poor.
That's true.
And I
yeah.
was worried
Yeah.
somebody's gonna take you because you're hot. Now, even though you are not as fit as you used to be, you have more money, and now I guess I'm afraid that
Well, I'm not rich. I'm not like.
I said more money, didn't say rich. No,
But
we
she
are
is a
not.
little worried that I'll get fit, and then the combination of me being fit and as attractive as I was when I was younger,
Yes.
and having a bit of money,
And then I think I have to get a plastic surgery.
you do not need plastic surgery. Guys, tell her not to get plastic surgery. I'll tell you what, I have a weird. I've always had this weird thing where if I got a photo of myself, I always looked bad. It was almost impossible for me to get a good photo, and even when I was like fit and attractive. But video was always okay. I always looked pretty good on film, but I don't know what it is. I could never really look good in photos. I was like passably handsome on film, but on photos I never looked good. Kind of weird thing. Let's see.
So we didn't deserve even one super chat today.
Well,
For
that's
90
okay. I don't mind that.
for
I
90
don't
minutes,
need super
like,
chat. I don't
we're
need
almost
super chat.
working like 2 hours. We don't get even like.
I'm kind of glad we
I'm
didn't
not-
get a super
I'm not
chat.
talking about $15 an hour, but at least like $1.99 would be good.
Well, if this gets monetized, we'll be okay. But they don't know. They usually get demonetized these
They
videos.
do.
But hopefully they'll get monetized. We don't have to worry about it.
Thoughts on
this guy-
alcohol tax increase?
This guy 800D writes butt implants only. She doesn't actually need butt
No,
implants. She's
a
got a
butt
nice.
you can get in a gym. You
Yeah.
can get a butt.
She
but
does that.
breast,
She does that glute workout stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and but boobs, I don't. I guess I should have a baby.
Darling, you are perfectly shaped. You do not need anything extra.
Can I pretend that I'm not perfect?
Can I pretend that I'm not perfect? You can for the people
Your
watching it.
thoughts on alcohol tax increase? DJ says, I think it's good.
Red Elgin is giving me fitness advice that I'm already following. Sorry, what? Say it again.
DJ asks thoughts on alcohol tax increase. If there is increase, I mean, there's gonna be increase in every possible tax because they need more money, and now they paid us. They're gonna pay a stimulus check with this. Okay, thank you for returning 5% of my 25% taxes,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
stimulus.
Yeah, the stimulus check was crazy how little people actually got compared
Guys,
to how
I have
much
an
they were
advice. Get that stimulus money. Yes, thank you. Okay, I want to finish my sentence.
spending. A tree climber. Oh, tree climber writes, talk me into it. Thanks, tree climber.
I have an advice.
That's for Valeria.
Maybe it's a stupid advice, but I think it's worth it. Get that stimulus check, invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah, just put
And
it all in
just wait
Bitcoin.
five years. I think it's gonna worth like 10 grand at least.
Yeah.
Just invest in Bitcoin, forget about it. I think it's gonna do.
Yeah, just
Good.
put some money in Bitcoin.
Oh my Jewish friend just gave us $2.99. What should I do
A Jewish friend.
for
It's
her
true.
now?
Joe Sullivan gave us $5 shirts. She wants to fatten you up so you don't wander off, Chris. Joe writes that as a joke, and that's true. It's true. Back when I was skinny, she was always a little bit, a little bit insecure about it. Now she's just like, "You're fat, and the woman will have you. It is fine. I'm not worried." Like if a girl ever comes to visit or wants to say how or calls me on the phone, she's like, "Yes, I don't care. She won't want you. Or fat now." It's fantastic. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, guys know what I'm talking about. Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, Ethereum. We have money in
Ethereum.
all these.
Yeah,
We went into a little bit into Dogecoin for fun.
for fun.
But it's very volatile. Very volatile stocks are good. If you
It
can,
depends on how much drunk Elon Musk on Fridays, and when he start tweeting stuff, the Dogecoin is
we
like
kind of got screwed actually because so Elon Musk started tweeting about Dogecoin. Let's say on a Friday. Let's just come up with
it's usually like
let's say it's a
weekends.
Friday. So on one Friday he tweeted about Dogecoin, and Valeria and I were both like, "Oh, we got to put money in Dogecoin." So we put a bunch of money in Dogecoin.
Not
I
a
think
bunch.
some like $4,000 or something like that.
No. Mm-mm.
Well, we didn't have a ton invested in, but we put whatever we had that happened to be investable at the time. We put that all into Dogecoin, and then it started to go down, and we're like, "What the hell? This is weird." So we went ahead and we waited for it to come back up a little bit, and then we took it out, and we didn't really lose anything.
No,
we
we
kind of
didn't.
broke even. But the next weekend, he did it again. He tweeted again.
Like 2 days after, not
Or something
even
like that.
next
Yeah,
week.
like 2 days after or something like that. He goes ahead and he tweets again, and we look at it and we're like, meh, that's not going to do anything. And it freaking skyrockets. And we're like, what the hell? What didn't happen the first time? like we had the right idea of what was going to happen, but for some reason it didn't. It's like if we're investing, the universe says, no, no, sorry.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
She's pretty good. Well, let's see here. Chris00NJ, the one who said that I'm out of my league, he wrote, yes, New Jersey, now Texas. Here's some rubles. Thank you. Just got done reading Gulag Archipelago. Oh, yeah, I actually have Gulag Archipelago on the bookshelf, but I haven't read it yet. I would like to. I bought an old copy, so it's like all neat. No one wants to be a slave. Pick another subject to be devil's advocate. Chris, I don't think that's true. I think that if you have a system historically where people are starving to death, but they could choose instead to be slaves, right? But the slave masters are good people. Gulag Archipelago, you're talking about the worst possible, the worst imaginable, treating people in a way that's inhumane. Right. I don't know if that's always been true in every civilization, always when anyone had a slave. Right. I mean, the Bible talks about slavery quite a bit, and it talks about how you need to treat your slaves well, because at the time when the Bible was written, slavery was sort of like a common thing. People had slaves commonly. And so it was like, you have to treat your animals well. You have to treat your slaves well. And if you're, another thing that's interesting in the times of the Romans, you should read up on how slaves were treated in Roman times, because if you mistreated your slave in Roman times, you could actually be punished. You could actually, I think, go to jail and stuff like that. Like there were certain rights that slaves even had, and they actually had certain hats that you could wear if you were a slave that was freed, anyway, there's stuff about it. You should read up on the slavery of Roman times. Fascinating stuff. Caesar Augustus. Oh, speaking of Roman times, Caesar Augustus writes, "Keep it up, both of you." Thank you, Caesar. We shall try. All right. I mean, people are writing a lot of stuff. They've got some great stuff here. Jesus is God wrote, "I'm a slave to Christ." That's true. But let's see here. Look, I am playing devil's advocate. Of course, I think being a slave 99% of the time is, not an optimal situation. But I just think that an argument can be made that it's not the worst thing ever in history. I think in some cases it might have been, but not in every case. So let's just be a little bit more nuanced about history than just, this is evil and that's the end of the topic. All right, should we end it here?
I think so. 98 minutes.
Let's see here. Caesar Augustus wrote, "I got into Bitcoin when it was at 40K, only had 1K to spend, but I'm up 300 for now." Good job, Caesar. This guy knows what's up. And we actually did something quite risky. I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but we actually took out a lot of our savings from stock investments to invest in crypto, which may have been a horrible mistake.
The problem with stock investments right now, that because they're printing a lot of dollars,
You think that the power of the
And
dollar
as power of dollar goes down, crypto will go up,
Sure.
especially tomorrow because Biden signs the stimulus package.
Yeah, Valeria thinks if
crypto
you're
will
going to
go
get into
up.
crypto, get in tonight.
Even
Before,
it's already late because it's already going
just
up.
put in $100, just put in $1,000. You can buy crypto on Robinhood. It's the easiest way, I think.
It's easy.
But it
yeah.
costs you a fee. There's a fee.
No,
Oh, no fee? No fee?
I mean if you like, you can Google the cheapest ways to trade
You can
crypto.
Google the cheapest ways
I
to
think it's like the
trade.
first one will be like Binance.
We use Binance. Yeah, that's
We
what
do.
Valeria
It's like the
uses.
like
Yeah.
lowest fee, I think.
But
oh, we
there's
got
various
another
places.
questions, Chris.
Oh my gosh,
Chris-
Frank James writes,
Chris.
slavery in an American context is evil. In other contexts, indentured servitude. When you talk slavery, people hear the American context. Well, you know, this is what I'm trying to say. So Frank James is from Canada. To me, that's a much more balanced view to have. And I tried to make that distinction when I was talking about it earlier. You know, I don't think anyone would say that the slavery is the ideal situation for people.
Oh, I'm
but
correct. Thank you, guys.
what's that? What do we got?
Somebody said
Valeria
I'm correct.
is correct, says Demon Slayer.
She's your
the power of the
financial manager. I think I actually spend more his money than I saved, but
You mean lost more money of mine?
no, I didn't lose.
Oh,
too
you
much.
mean spend more of my money on
Yeah.
like clothes and stuff? Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what's funny? Okay, so for maybe I don't know, like a couple of years, Valeria has been a little bit depressed about one thing, which is that she couldn't find a job that she found fulfilling. And this is something that is part of human nature, right? We don't have any children, and she doesn't have a job that she felt was fulfilling. She had a job that she likes. She likes
fun.
in
It's
Hollywood.
a fun job. It's a fun job.
But it's not a job she felt was something that was contributing enough to our family or the world, and so she wanted to do something else. And so I came up with two jobs for her. This, which I think she's great at. You guys can say one way or another what you think about that. But I think she's a bit of a star. And then I also came up with this idea of investing in crypto. And the thing is, I wanted to do it, right? I wanted to go in and start investing in crypto and do all the research and all that. I just didn't have the time to do it because my show just takes so much research, so much editing, so much time to write the scripts and everything. So I knew I couldn't do it myself. And so what I did is I did a little research and I kind of got the basics down and I kind of walked Valeria through it. And at first she didn't think she would be able to do it. She said, no, I don't want to do this. And now she is a frickin' guru. She's like a crypto genius. She watches like 20 videos a day in Russian on how to invest in crypto. And she knows her stuff. She knows way better than I do. In fact, every couple of days I come up to her and I go, hey, how is the crypto doing? Are we making money? Are we losing money? She's like, oh, it's up right now. I'm like, okay, cool. Are you going to pull out? And she just looks at me like, do not ask me these questions. I will do it, and you will shut up, and you will wait, and you will see, and you will just get the money. Do not ask me. I will do it. You will, and I always go, okay. She doesn't like to talk about it. She just likes to do it, and that's
That's
the way I am.
That's why I'm not talking, because less talking, more.
That's the
more
way
action.
I say that all the time about bedroom things. I don't like to talk about it, guys. All right. Just like to do it. Sorry. So that took a very vulgar turn all of a sudden. but I thought it was funny.
And you were blaming me for pronouncing Anon.
Yeah. Yeah, blue Anon incorrectly. Yeah, true. All right, well, this one went really long. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for sticking with us for the entire 16 hours, however long this was. And we will see you guys tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll try to keep it to an hour.
I will force him
Yeah.
to keep it an hour.
All right. We'll